POV, you've watched Band of Brothers or played Medal of Honor Airborne or watched World War Wisdom one too many times. Big shout out to Sword, he's a really cool guy. And of course that has brought you here to the channel. Now today I wanted to do an update on my 82nd Airborne impression, specifically from the D-Day kind of time period more or less. And of course there's still a lot for me to update and change and improve to kind of defarb the kit a little bit, but I couldn't have done any of that without the help of Keith over at Stand in the Door 1944. Now what they specialize in is basically taking equipment that was made for the time and all the airborne equipment that existed and finding ways of keeping it authentic but also making it better. Now I've had the pleasure of actually seeing how he creates a lot of the replicas on his website, and he puts all his heart and passion into it, and it's very, very impressive. And of course he is the primary sponsor of this video. He supplied a bunch of stuff that's helping me update the kit, so I couldn't thank him enough. But for real, I wouldn't do this video unless I actually believed in what he's doing, not just for historical preservation, but the reenactment community. And like I said before, one of the things that they really specialize in is making things that look accurate, but also are built better or tougher in a way that it'll actually stand up to the reenactment battles, which is kind of like their version of a milsim. And what's cool is that he's actually found quite a few ways to improve upon it so that it makes life for the end user that much better. And it's actually quite amazing how much just the things that he's been able to change that actually even improve upon existing World War II design. So without further ado, let's jump into it. So first off, one of the things I actually want to talk about is right here, the gloves. Now, what's kind of cool is like people have thought they were like different colors, but what's actually cool is that this is like a doe hide glove that he's basically designed and built to be a replica of the gloves that paratroopers were jumping with into Normandy. Now, that kind of famous yellow color really comes from just everyday use. This white color, which is basically them brand new, they basically turn yellow or kind of brown after repeated use, and that's what gets that really authentic color. So if you do buy these gloves from him, just use them like gardening and stuff, and they'll actually become the authentic color that you're probably looking for just from sweat and dirt and just daily use. And honestly, I've seen the gloves that he's had, his prototypes, and some of the ones that he's had for a while. They hold up to a lot of abuse. It's actually ridiculous. These are probably some of the best gloves you'll ever have. They're worth every penny. They feel really comfortable. Like literally, considering that I've been using all kinds of modern gloves from companies like Outdoor Research and Mechanics Wear and Oakley, I mean, these are fantastic. For a guy who's not really like a full-time glove company, I think he really knocked it out of the park with these gloves. And just the way how he's stitched things, he's actually improved on the original World War II glove in a lot of ways because just the placement of where the seams are. So from a distance, they look like authentic World War II gloves. Up close, you'll be able to tell some of the differences and places where there's either movement of seams or lack of seams. And the reason he does that is to basically improve the life of the glove, so that way it's just a lot more durable. And I think he's done a fantastic job. This is probably one of my favorite products on his website. So if you need some gloves for your D-Day impression, check these out. So next, I want to talk about the helmet. Now, I have a World War II helmet and my liner's kind of okay. That's one thing I need to improve on for sure. But one thing he actually pointed out to me was the netting. Like different units had different nets, and with 82nd, it was actually this kind of finer mesh net that kind of became a little more standardized later on. You see 101st kind of had like, I guess like the 1-inch net. This is like the 1/4-inch net, something like that. It's on his website, but check it out. But it definitely helps the impression become that much more accurate. Just those little details will really help out with making the helmet look like an authentic 82nd Airborne Division impression. Now, next, kind of going on further down, we've got the Bandolier, which is really cool. I actually think it's kind of cool that this style of Bandolier has actually stuck around for a really, really long time. And frankly, Bandoliers in any kind of situation, whether it's from World War II or to modern day, have always been useful because you got to get ammo to the front lines quickly, or maybe you just need to throw extra ammo on quickly on top of like your chest rig or your plate carrier, or you're running up to a position and need to hand a guy some ammo. Bandoliers, they're never going away. They're always going to be in vogue. But I think he's done a fantastic job. I've got end blocks in all of these, and you can actually kind of adjust the length with like safety pin, maybe some tape and stuff like that. I've kind of adjusted it a little bit to myself, but this was a very common way that guys carried ammo. And speaking of ammo and load carriage, kind of jump down to the rigger pouches. Now he's got a couple different versions of rigger pouches on his website, and he's done a fantastic job of explaining this to me and kind of bestowing his knowledge onto me as well. Is that the rigger pouches, like frankly, rigger pouches suck. World War II impressionists and reenactors get them because that's what paratroopers used for a little while, but you do notice, as Keith points out in my discussion with him, is that a lot of guys ended up going to the cartridge belt pouches anyways because they were just better. They're just more purpose-built for end blocks. But what he's done for the guys that want the accurate impression, he's done two things. He's actually made them so that way there's a gap in the middle when you loop them onto your belt. You can actually put the hook from the suspenders through it, and it keeps the rigger pouch in place. Because one of the problems is rigger pouches move around. There's just, it's funny how many of these designs they just never got around to fixing. But I think part of the reason why is because like I said, a lot of guys end up going back to cartridge belts anyways. So the pouches, the placement of the pouches is significantly better with his. Also, the material that he uses is a lot thicker, so the pouches feel a lot more substantial. One thing too is that he actually has this little piece of elastic right here. Now what this does is, and it's like, again, one of the bane of existences of using rigger pouches, even though they look really cool, is that your end blocks tend to fall out because you open your pouches and then you're doing a reload, but maybe you don't have time to close it right away. And your ammo, it's like a yard sale. It just goes everywhere. But this little piece of elastic, which is very low profile and not super visible, pretty much impossible to see when you have the the pouch closed, keeps the end blocks in there. And of course, he also has spacers in there because, of course, whether you're using blank ammo, which is a little bit shorter, you might need to adjust the height of that, and it keeps the end blocks nice and high. Very easy to access when you're going to do your emergency reload, or whether you're doing any kind of reload with your M1 or any other kind of weapon system that you can make use of these pouches. So that's the rigger pouches, which is, I would say, one of like the number 2, one of the other best products on the website. But there are a couple other things as well. When it comes to the, there are a couple things as well. Next, we got this little guy, this little like medical kit. Now, it's really cool because he's actually gone to the length of basically taking an original kit, molding it so that it actually has the proper shape. I mean, that's the level of detail that Keith has gone to over there to making sure it's the right kind. Now, it may not look very different from the one that I had before, but to me, up close, it definitely looks way better, way more authentic, and it just has that proper shape, which is really cool. It's the little devils in the details that matter. Next, going on to what I currently have. So this rope is actually something that guys would use if you like landed on a building or a roof or in a tree. You could use this rope to let yourself down. Now, modern day paratroopers, we don't really have that. We actually just use the reserve and just snake it down the tree and climb that. Hopefully it's low enough where we can make it all the way down to the ground. Back then, this is what they had, and frankly, I just think the way the rope looks is really, really cool, honestly. And you basically just loop it on like your suspenders or on your belt or just anywhere that you can, really. Just kind of dealer's choice about where you can hook it up to. Next, there's a couple other items I want to show you that I'm not currently wearing, and of course, like I said, there are things I'm going to change. Like eventually, I'll probably take the pistol off and maybe put something else on there, but there's a couple other products that I want to show you guys from Stand in the Door that I think are really cool. Now this is really cool. This is the cover for the shovel or like an e-tool. And essentially what he's done is he's actually like reinforced this, and because it's crazy, because from this, it just looks like another cover for a shovel. But when you open it up, you notice just the way he's sewn and how long this material goes into the pouch and how this is all reinforced. Because he's actually studied how this pouch, the real version and the replica, specifically how they come apart. And he's been like, he thought like there's got to be a better way to improve that. So he put extra material on the inside, and he also reinforced the lift-a-dot, because the lift-a-dot on the snaps on these buttons all the time are notorious for breaking, especially on like original pouches. So that's just one thing that he's done, and he's done that reinforcement on any of his pouches with lifted aughts. He's done that same thing. So the attention to detail is really superb and fantastic, and that's how you know that stuff like this is gonna last when you use and abuse it in all of your reenactments. Now, I know I already said he's kind of a devil for the details, but even these straps, just simple straps like this, which were basically, you know, back then they used cot straps because you could actually get away with using one strap on your cot. They actually repurposed these to basically put Hawkins mines, strap knives to their legs, all kinds of cool stuff that paratroopers just needed to get into the fight. And, you know, GI is always going to be very, very resourceful with what's lying around. Now, what's cool is that he's literally gone through the effort of finding just the right hardware for these things and finding the right material. I don't think people realize how hard it is to manufacture things and just get things right. And Keith is obsessed with authenticity and making sure that things look the part. So even just something as simple and what some people would think is like unimportant as something as a strap has gone through a lot of attention to detail and labor of love to make sure that it's authentic and that it meets the standard and exceeds the standard of what you would expect from the reenactment community. Keith over at Stand and Door 1944, he, like I said, obsessed over the details, and that's why just the material behind that he uses and sources for these flags or the patches, I mean, he goes into painstaking detail to make sure that both the 82nd Airborne Division patches and the 101st Airborne Division patches are accurate, even down to like the types that are used on different types of uniforms. So if you're looking for insignia for your uniform, definitely check these out. Now, this might look like a bar of soap, but this is actually otter wax. So this is how you basically recreate the coating that paratroopers wore during D-Day. And that's actually one of the reasons why their uniforms were so dark. Now, I don't have that treatment on my uniform right now, but it's definitely something I'm going to be adding. And if you actually want to learn how to do the treatment process, check out his YouTube channel, which is extremely informative, the Stand and Door 1944 YouTube channel, of how to actually apply this to have the wax coating on your uniform, which is one of the things that they did to combat chemical warfare. They thought when they were jumping in that they were just going to get bombarded by the Germans, and of course that didn't happen. But that's why, of course, like when you watch Band of Brothers, before they go over into France, the uniforms are like kind of like this, very clean. But then when they're getting ready to jump and when they're in like Carentan and in France, the uniforms are extra dirty and gritty. It's because they went through the process of treating the uniforms, and the variety is huge just of how uniforms were treated. Keith even told me that, you know, sometimes they'd put a bunch of uniforms in and the uniform at the bottom is going to be the one sitting in the tank longer than the others, so it might end up being darker than the others. So this is what you would use to treat it to get that proper look if you want to be a little bit more authentic. Now, there are a couple other things on his websites they actually gave me. This escape map, which is actually really detailed. He actually scanned a real escape map, which is basically just something that the guys had on them so that if they jumped into Normandy or into France, or while they were in France, if they needed to find basically a way back home or to E&E to a friendly area, they could use this. And it's, you know, it crushes up and folds up. I mean, it's basically made out of like cloth. And he actually sourced this very specific material for this. But this was designed so that you can stuff it in a pocket and it wasn't obvious that it was paper, which is really cool. Really cool small detail. So this right here is really cool. It's one of my favorite products on his website. It's actually one of everyone's favorite products on his website. It's one of the things that he sells a ton of, these replica grenades. Now, he told me this really awesome story about Band of Brothers, how they had the wrong grenades a couple episodes, and then a couple episodes later, they ended up switching to the proper grenade. But he goes into extremely high detail on these, just the way that the spoon is basically constructed and how it's the shape of it and how it's folded onto the grenade, the pin, the color, the texturing. I mean, the molds that he's got of this thing and watching him manufacture these is extremely impressive. I mean, this looks like the real deal. You're really not going to find anything better out there. And he also makes rubber ones too, if you just need something like throwable. But if you do need something that you'll just like throw on your kit, obviously you probably wouldn't wear it there, you'd probably throw it somewhere else. But if you just needed some grenades to put on your kit or have on your kit just for that authentic look or to dress up your set or something like this, his grenades are literally second to none, fantastic. Be sure to check those out. So if you guys have made it this far, thank you guys for tuning in. I've actually really been enjoying updating this impression, and I can't wait to do more. I mean, just all this cool stuff. It's so fantastic. I love gear. I want to return the channel a little bit more to its roots by doing some full-on, long-form loadout videos for you guys, because I noticed I've been doing a bunch of short-form versions, but I'm like, you know what, I should probably do some long-form versions for you guys too, because I love gear, everybody loves gear, and maybe you might even see some collaborations with me and Sawyer over at World War Wisdom. Been talking to the guy, he's a really cool guy, and if you want to learn more about World War II history, check out Sawyer's channel, World War Wisdom, and of course check out Stand in the Door, 1944. Keith is a wealth of information, especially from the airborne community, and it's one of the reasons why, you know, I just love that he's built a company around kind of the whole airborne impression thing, which is so cool. Again, couldn't have made this video possible without him. And there's actually a sale going on right now at the time of this recording, so if you're watching this right now and you want to get some cool World War II gear to kind of accessorize your World War II kit, go ahead and check out Stand in the Door, 1944. They make awesome stuff. Keith is a great guy. He does this for the love of the hobby, and couldn't thank him more for supporting people like myself. So thank you guys for watching. I'll see you guys next time, and adios.